Buonasera a tutti. I will introduce in English because the first part of this speech with our guest, thank you very much, Gardner, will be in English. Then we follow, of course, the 2022 logo trend report with 3 small talks about brand systems, about UI and UX, about the future of typography. That will be in Italian. So each language will be satisfied today. So thank you very much to spend your Saturday here. I know it's Saturday, there are still good weather, so a big thank you to be inside this room and not enjoying the last day. So I'm Bob Liuzzo, the coordinator of the graphic design course here at IED Milano. We spend the afternoon making with all our guests a wonderful open portfolio review with our student and ex-student. And let me say that all the guests I invited to the school, the king of logo design, Bill Gardner, over there from US. Marco, the founder of the biggest online Italian community about graphic designer called the robadagrafici. One of the greatest UI and UX designer in Italy also. If you tell this, he said it's not true. Last but not the least, also founder of robadagrafici, but here as ambassador of Zeta Fonts, one of the biggest Italian type foundry, very active right now, saying that all the work and the project they saw this afternoon were amazing. So this is the demonstration we are moving into a bright future for design. And this is all of us. I don't want to lose any time. So we start with our main guest. It's always an honor to have him here, and it's Mr. Bill Gardner. No introduction, also because he has a very good website of his agency, gardnerdesign.com, right? Yeah. .com or logolounge.com.
We can do either.
Founder
Logo Lounge, you can send me money.
Yeah. And wrote to Logo Lounge. It's I would say in other words, not your words, maybe the world biggest online observatory on trends on logo design. Because by stealing Bill words, if you don't know from where you come from, you don't know where you are going.
That's true.
That's true. In life, not in design. So it's a big pleasure to have him here at IED as a guest every time. And I leave the word to the main guest, speaking about the 2022 logo and trend record to all of you. Thank you very much for the word.
Show of hands, those that are comfortable with me speaking in English, because you don't want to hear my Italian. Come on in, you didn't miss anything. Let me start over here. Hi. Oh, yeah. So I've got to share a little story. As a designer, and how many of you are designers? By show of hands, just to kind of get a sense. Yeah, okay, we've got a lot of designers in the room. Designers are never comfortable when everybody agrees with what they say. I mean, if everybody agrees with something that you do, you probably have screwed up. So you want to make sure that at least not half the audience disagrees with you. So what we're going to do is I'm going to divide the room right down the middle like this. And if you agree with something that I say or I present, or if you find it funny or humorous, that'll make me feel good. But I want this side of the audience to remain entirely quiet. Okay? Except for you. I can already tell you're going to be trouble. And this side can applaud uproariously. Okay? We'll switch off. So the next thing that I say that's really good, you guys can applaud, except for you. And you guys can be quiet. I'll let you figure that part out. Okay. So a little bit about what we're going to talk about this evening. I talk a lot about trends, and thus the name of this, which is the trend report. But I'm going to share that before I do that, that Gardner Design does nothing but branding. We work with a large group of clients, both nationally, regionally, as well as internationally. As a matter of fact, it's a real pleasure that I am actually here in Milan this week, because I had the opportunity to work with Laura Micolisi in the development of the exhibit at Genoa of Ghosts and Spirits from Japanese Tales. And I encourage you to go there as well, because it's a real treat to be able to have an opportunity to work in your community and to be able to spend time with you. You guys are so nice. Okay, enough of the capitalism. Let's move on to some actual stuff. So trends. Why are we even talking about trends? In America, or in the English language, and I'll have to see how this translates. There is a word trending, and there is a word trends. And oftentimes, people hear the word trends, and they think, well, we're talking about trending. We're not talking about trending. Trending is something that is going to go away quickly. It may be popular today, but it's not going to be popular over a long period of time. And we've been doing this report for 20 years now, and I'm still alive. And the thing that I find most fascinating about the trend report is that as designers, we all live by trends. I hate to think of that, but we do. What we wear, well, maybe not what we wear. I may be the only one in the room that would wear this shirt. But what we tend to buy clothing-wise, where we eat, the things we read, the things we binge, those are all based on trends. But as designers, we bring unique combinations of things together. And I think that's what's really special about design, is that we take things that are not trendy yet, are not trends yet, and we turn them into trends. One last thought on trends before we dive into this. You cannot start a trend. Now that sounds like a strange statement. Somebody has to start a trend, don't they? But think about something that is designed that is of no relevance to anyone. It doesn't become a trend, does it? But if someone designs something that others find relevance in, and they emulate some aspect of that, that is the birth of a trend. That's when it starts. So it's really not that person that created that initial idea. It is the people that find relevance in that idea that expand a trend. And the last thing that I will leave you with before we really dive into this is that I show you this report because this is a report. We look at thousands of logos to come up with these trends. But I never encourage you, never, to emulate a trend. I encourage you to look at what's happening and figure out how can I advance that to the next level. Because trends are about evolution. It's about evolving from here to there, the trajectory that something is going. So as you look at these, don't go home and go, I'm going to draw one of those. It won't be yours, it's theirs. I want you to look at these and think, how would I move that to its next level? Okay, so I'm going to start with a story that I like, which is, it's going to come back to this shield. So there is a gentleman who has a podcast, and his name is Jeff Impman. And the name of his podcast is Monsters. I'll say that again, Prairie Monsters. And the reason he calls them Therapy Monsters is because his podcast is really about looking at things that aren't, okay, come on in. We'll start over. No, I'm kidding you, we won't. His podcast is about looking at things that disturb him. It's about thinking about things that scare him a little bit, that he's uncomfortable with. But I think that as designers, that's our life. Is we're always uncomfortable with what we've done sometimes, and we've got to learn to like it. And the other thing about this podcast is that as designers, I think this is a good parable for what we do. The name of it is what really appeals to me, Therapy Monsters. And I'm going to come back to that name in just a minute. So I think this is probably where logo design started. Marco may not agree with me, but I know, it's okay. But I think this is probably where it started. Maybe somebody going into battle took a shield to protect themselves, and they took a hammer and they beat the symbol into that shield, so that if you looked around and everybody else had a shield like you were good. But if you saw somebody who had a shield that didn't have the same symbol on it, you killed them. Right? And you don't want to kill your own guys, you want to kill the other guys, right? So, yeah, I mean, that's a life and death kind of logo that's going on there. And when you think about it, I want you to think about over these millenniums, how much we have progressed with what we've done with logo design. Really. I mean, if you think about it, there were all of these other armies, or all of these other kingdoms that were out there battling with each other. But look how far we've come with logo design. We really haven't come very far, have we? That was hundreds of years ago, but here we are, we're still doing logos that are one-color logos, and that really, they don't have any life, they don't give up faith. And here's the thing that translates back to this idea of there being monsters. About the same time that this was going on, people were exploring the globe. Explorers were sailing off to other aspects of the globe. There we go. And as they were traveling around the world, one of the things that happened was they started making maps, but they hadn't explored everything yet, had they? So when you had a map, in the corner of it, where you were a little bit fuzzy on what was going on, they would put this phrase, "Hic sunt draconis." Here be dragons. Now, I don't really believe that there were monsters that drove ships down to the bottom of the ocean. I don't believe that. But I want you to think for a second about why those cartographers put "Hic sunt draconis" in the corners of the maps. I get it. They didn't know exactly what was there, but think about what they were doing. They were telling you, don't go there. Have you ever had an art director that said, yeah, don't do that. We don't do that. That's, you don't want to use a gradation here, or you don't want to use transparency here, because we don't do that. You don't want to animate that. We don't do that. There are people that are roadblocks. There are those that stop us in our process of evolving. And you've got to think about this, because some of the stuff that they put on these maps, it was some of the best fiction that was ever drawn. All of these monsters that would be in the corners, and you know why they were there. It was because they really didn't know what was there. But again, these were the people that stop you and tell you not to explore. And they always put these on the edge of the map, because the edge of the map was what was undefined, wasn't it? So as we talk about this, I want you to think about going to the edge of the map with your design. I want you to go to those areas that haven't been explored yet with design. As I was first starting design, this is the way that the logo should have looked. It was black and white, and it was just very vector. It was highly defined. And then somebody came along and said, oh shit, we're gonna do transparencies? We can't do transparencies. How are we gonna print that? Well, you know, we've kind of moved from a CMYK world into an RGB dominion, haven't we? And at the same time, you know, oh shit, you do a logo that's all line work, it's never going to reduce down. You can't scale that thing. What are you going to do with it? And God forbid, oh, okay, somebody starts putting gradations on a logo, you're dead. It'll never work. And it does, doesn't it? Because we don't live in the world that we used to live in. But keep in mind that even if you wanted to animate something now, we can still animate because we don't live in the same world as when they were drawing that map. And they say, "Hic sunt draconis." Don't go to the edges of that map. We live in a very different place. What I want you to do is I want you to imagine for just a few minutes about where identity and branding and logo design is actually going to. You know, we already utilize Sonic logos now, don't we? Sonic has become an incredibly important part of brand identity, that visual tactile. You know, with haptic technology, we are that close to the point where you pick up an iPad and you wipe your hand across it, and if it's water, it feels like water. Or it's leather, it feels like leather. Think about what does that brand that you design feel like if you touch it. We're going to talk more about where that's going. I don't know where it goes. Is it even a logo? I was having a conversation, Marco, are you in here? There you go. We were having a conversation earlier, weren't we, about, you know, logos may not be around. Logos may go away. We love logos. I love logos. But think about what you use to identify a brand. That smell, that sound, that touch, the color, the pattern, the texture, everything is in there. So my encouragement is to run to the edge of the map and explore what's out there on the edge of it. Don't stay in the center, because people have already looked at it. Okay, I'm off my soapbox. How it happens. Are they still awake?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, pretty much. Good. So I'm going to take a quick drink here just so I can keep my voice and my tenor up. So this is Logo Lounge, which is a really wonderful tool. Started about 20 years ago. And at this point, there have been 20,000 some members around the world in more than 200 countries that upload their works to the site. Now it costs $100. I'm not sure how that's, I think that's about 100 euros right now. A year to be a member. But you're able to upload your work to the site. There's, I think at this point, close to 500,000 logos that are on the site that are highly contextualized, so you can search, so you can put in a box. You can take a look at all these great boxes to tell you, one, what not to do, and what's already been done, or to influence you and help you think forward a little bit. Hey, come on, you guys. You're all good. Va bene. Additionally, you could have your logos selected to go inside the Logo Lounge books. We've done a total of 13 of those now. I'm not afraid of unlucky number 2. I was just going to wake them up. So here's what happens. Every February, I pretty much say goodbye to my wife and daughter, and I go to the office, and I start sorting through logos. So for this report, we went through 35,000 logos, which had been uploaded since the previous report. And I start to pull off every logo that has some nuance of something that maybe I've not seen before a lot of times. And I pull those up over into a file folder, and then I open it up and I pretty much kill Illustrator by dumping all of these logos into it and make squares of 10 by 10s, and I play the world's largest version of matching. So I pull out one logo and I go, okay, that kind of looks like this, which kind of looks like that, kind of. And After I had done that, that was, I think, this year with about 2,100 logos I pulled in, I started pulling together clusters. And those are groups of logos I find some commonality amongst. And kind of like Goldilocks, there are some trends that are too big, and other ones that are maybe too small. But there are others that are just right, where you start to find enough similar items in there that you're going, this is starting to become kind of a trend, if you will. And we knock those down to about 40-ish groups of logos, which we end up sending out to a number of designers, trusted designers that are well respected in the identity field. And we say, which ones of these do you think are going to have the greatest significance over the next year? They might have influence. Now, there's a lot of trends out there, but we're just identifying certain things that we find to be unique. Okay, preamble to this, a little bit of setup before we get into it. Aside from the trends, there are some things that, again, are happening that I talked to a couple of you with earlier today, which are that I think that the logo is becoming less important in that visual vocabulary of elements in a design, in a brand. When you start to think about it, you know, we've always told clients, you know, it's important that a logo has to have context. You know, it's going to have color involved, so it's going to have texture, it's going to have pattern, it's going to have a style of photography and illustration. All these things come together to build that brand DNA, if you will. And we tell that to people because it's true. When you look at, let's say, for instance, the Instagram logo, immediately, all you have to see is that gradient in there, and then violet down to the gold to know it's Instagram. You don't have to see the logo, do you? So all of those elements are really important. We're finding out that a couple of things are coming into play. So motion and sound. Let's talk about both of those just a little bit here. Because we do live in the digital dominion now. It's probably more and more important for us to think about this idea of the flexibility of a logo. Now, we've always known that we can take a logo, we can twist it, we can spin it. But now more and more logos are being designed specifically to be in motion as opposed to being static. Second is sound. Now, I want you to think about this for just a minute. It was just in 2018 that was still the Netflix logo. We have Netflix here, right? Yes. So in 2018, you had never seen this. What just happened there? One, you saw a new logo. Two, you saw the integration of pattern, color. And three, this noise that associates with this sonic sound. Wow, that only took a second to deliver that, didn't it? And we just burned that brand into you. You can be in the bathroom and you hear that noise, you know it's Netflix, right? You know what's going on. How smart is that? And that was 2 notes, by the way. Ba-bum. Do they have Taco Bell here? I hope they don't. Oh, thank God. The reason I show these is because every one of these brands has branded themselves with a single sound. Again, I didn't have to see the logos to know those. I know Taco Bell, you know. Okay. Animation and pattern. And that's because I think these are more critical now than they have ever been. Which is that you can start to identify a brand more quickly. You know, when you think about the hierarchy of our visual cortex and how we look at things, the very first thing we identify is color. Think about a camera that's out of focus, and you're looking through that lens, and you slowly roll it into focus. What you see? You start out with color. The second thing you start to see is pattern. And the third thing you start to see is detail. And that's true with a brand. So when you take a look at a person's website or the digital face of it, and you see pattern and you see color, you're going to be more accurate in delivering that brand than if you show the logo. Ouch, it hurts, but it's true. When you start to think about this, you can take something like the Electronic Sports League and say, you know, we've got this incredibly vivid color palette going on that they own, and we've got this camouflage look going on, and they animated it in a really kind of fun way. The logo, it's okay. I hope nobody here did it. But it really is about the motion and the colors of football. Frankly, I like this logo. I think it's a great logo. But it is subordinate to the color and the pattern when they utilize that as part of a brand. So I'm never saying that the logo isn't important. All I'm doing is I'm saying that it's not as critical often as that. The last one is pinkification. God, the world has embraced pink. I love this because the trend reports for the last 5 years have indicated that pink was going to be an important color. This is 22, yeah. It keeps getting pinker and pinker, and I don't know if it's going to go away. But the interesting thing is that corporations are starting to embrace it. So it's no longer kind of a fad color, but it's being ingested and put back out by larger corporations. So here's the reason I'm showing this. This is the last one of these preamble, which is that more and more brands are starting to adopt a palette. And yes, there have been palettes of colors that have been adopted by brands for years, but now we're starting to say, you know what? I don't care what the dominant color is in the palette, as long as it's from the palette. There's no hierarchy within these. And you're finding more and more people are adopting this broad kind of palette of colors, which is a piece of cake. If you go to an app like iColor Palette, you can pretty much just make sure you put in pink in your group of colors that you want in there somewhere, and just pick out whichever one you want, and I think you're pretty much that one. Okay, sure. There's my palette. Let's get into the report. There are a total of 15 trends. I hope we'll find out. And again, keep in mind, I'm just reporting. I'm not telling you I like these or I dislike them. I'm just telling you this is what we're seeing and why we think we're seeing it. Number one, bow ties. So you know, when you start to put this report together and all of a sudden you see these clusters, and you go, why are we seeing so much of this? And you've got to kind of back off and go, okay, I think it's because I love what's being communicated here, which is the idea of typically something that gets reduced down to a point and then expanded back out. So it's a transition. Arrows obviously give us very much an indicative kind of element. You know, if you turn the arrows on a vertical axis, it's an hourglass, isn't it? So it's basically a passage of time. You're going to run out of time. If you turn it the other way, it's a limbo scale, which is the shape of infinity, which basically is you have unlimited time. But the thing that I really love about this is the diversity of different ways that this is being utilized. I think that if you start to think about just turning a single element one way or the other, giving it an entirely different meaning, has always infatuated me. Get it? Well, maybe we're done. And that's it. Okay. Well, I think that Mark Zuckerberg was a little bit slow in coming up with his little escape logo for Meta. If you think about it, it's kind of based, I think based on his portal to his metaverse. Not really uvula, which is not to be confused with vulva. When I look at these, this is the thing that I love. We have used a drop, a single drop, to represent so many things over years when we start talking about branding. And think about it. A drop could be a tear, which could stop a person's heart. Or it could be one of the 800 drops that it takes to make a single ounce. It could be a drop in the ocean. So a drop can be many things, can it? But the thing I love about these drops is that suddenly we've made them precious. We've encased them in things. And it's the encasement that protects it that is telling the story. You know, that might be some really terrific orange juice, I don't know. Or maybe this is an eye drop. Or that next one. I don't know if that drop is going to extinguish the flame, or if it's going to put the flame out, or if it's going to erupt into a greater fire. But the thing that I love about all of these is that notice the drop is not separated. The drop is still connected. So there's tension there. There's a story that's being told. This is still connected to something, and it's about to turn into something of its own, on its own. I love that idea. Rooters. You know, nature is complex. If I were to cut off my arm, and I'm not going to do that, but let's say I did, it'd probably be my left arm. I would have veins and all kinds of stuff running through there, which are pretty complex. But as designers, we have to tell complex stories and bring them to simplification. I always love it. And you can agree with me or disagree with me, but the designers I've talked to, they absolutely hate drawing tree logos. They do. Why? Well, I mean, as a child, I put that stick, we put a ball up on top of it. Yeah, it was a tree. But as a designer, you gotta think about that. How do we simplify a branch structure, or a root structure, or the arteries inside the human body, or coral at the bottom of the ocean? How do we take those things and bring simplification to them? And I think that this year we're starting to see designers going, you know, there's a way to present these in such a way that we can present nature as being complex, but we can reduce it down to either a highly geometrical solution or into a random solution, which end up being a surface element as opposed to the logo itself. And I want you to think about that for just a minute, because when we talk about the surface element of the logo, to me that's bonus territory. Because if I give somebody a shape of a stop sign, they know that that's a stop sign. But then if I do something on the surface, and I put grits on it, they're going, well, that's an organic stop sign. I'm not sure what that is. But I mean, that's bonus territory whenever you can go onto the surface and adding an extra level of information that people wouldn't have otherwise. So I love this, and I had a good conversation with Cosmo about this. Your partner at Zen Bonds and I talked about his trigger report as well. And one of the things we talked about, this is a great thing about doing trigger reports, is you get to discover the history behind something when you do your research. So this is a font that was actually designed by Caslin Fonts from the UK, which Caslin has been around for 300 years. you believe that? And 100 years after it was started, everybody was creating these didonic fonts. Combination dido and zoe. So the fonts had these really heavy verticals, and these really tiny, horizontal bars on. And somebody at Caswell said, "Screw it! We're gonna thumb our nose at it. We're gonna have some fun." And somebody said, "What would happen if we made these horizontals just extremely fat and put these tiny little spindly legs on them?" I love this font, and it was designed 200 years ago. That means 200 years. Look at these serifs. These are just killer. I love this. And they named after your country. What happened? People started using them as poster. They started using them as headlines. People thought they were a monstrosity. There are literally British editorials talking about this monstrosity of type that people are using called Italian. But how does that translate forward? Start taking a look at logos that are being created today. And we re-embraced this idea of reverse stress fonts. Some of them work better than others. This is almost corporate. You could almost get away with that for a corporation, couldn't you? Some of the other ones in there, you've got to kind of back up a little bit. A Muslim, the strokes that they make are naturally fat on the horizontal and thin on the vertical. But in our language, when we see something like that, it challenges us. And one of the very best lessons I ever learned was challenge the people that are looking at your work. It'll stop them. Consumers will look at those fonts and they'll go, something's different here. I don't know what it is, but something is different here. Louvers. So, I forget who, I believe it was with Hefe, that I was having a conversation earlier today about the fact that there was a period of time about 7 years ago where everybody started shifting over their work marks to these very bland, all Helvetica, all Futura, all, no syrup, nothing exceptional to them. And what I love is that we're slowly kind of working our way out of that, so that some corporations still feel really strongly about keeping a font pretty tame, but it's kind of like they're going, but we know how to have fun. Angie, we pretty much go by the book, but this is fun. And you're seeing this all over the place. And at this point, it's kind of a joke in and of itself to see this going on in a corporation. But it works for some. I get what the idea was people convey. Bob made a comment, kind of kiddingly when we opened, which I often go back to, which is it's more important to know where you came from than it is to know where you are. And the reason that I make that comment is because oftentimes, if you just emulate something that somebody else has done, you don't understand their thinking and why they did what they did. You just think it's cool. It's fun. We'll just do that because I like it. It looks good. And I think so much of this is done because people think that it looks good, as opposed to understanding what the reason was for why it was done initially. Yeah, I get it. It's having fun. Okay. I know, you're having fun. I get it. Okay. Fun. Yeah, here's what I make of the logos at the donut factory. It's just, okay. Yeah, okay, you're having fun. Some of these, I think, are better than others. This happens to be Brazilian translation service that I think does a pretty good job of kind of indicating this diversity of languages that they deal with. So I can know that. So what's different about these? We see lots of badges. Why is this a different group? To me, this is kind of like when you think about the elements in a logo, and you think about a symbol, and you think about that word mark that goes with it oftentimes, and they've got a relationship. We call that a lockup. You know, it's the symbol and the word mark are here, or you don't change the scale and you don't adjust. Sometimes you can take the logo out on its own. Sometimes the word mark can go out on its own. It's kind of like a relationship. But sometimes you just take that word mark and drop it over the top of that logo and kind of go, there you are. You're connected. You got to stay together. One of the issues with that is scaling. It's when you start to scale these down. That word mark is just exactly the size it is there. It's never going to adjust. I also like the fact that, notice that the type on these hasn't really been modified. It's just kind of put there. So I don't think most of these are going to have any corporate effect. I think that they're going to have a more artisanal kind of influence. Whiplash. So, as a child, my mother would take me antiquing with her. My mother loved antiquing, antique stores. It's a good name for antiquing here. What was the other three? And she would often try to educate me about different styles. And she would look at something and she'd go, well, this was Art Nouveau. You know, it had natural rhythm and natural lines that came from nature in there. And that was a pretty simple explanation. In Art Deco, she covered a variety of different things with me. But one of the things that I love about this reintroduction of it is that keep in mind that this was actually coming into its own in 1890. And it had a resurrection in the 60s. And now it's coming into this resurrection again. But think about how differently it's been used over those periods of time. So it's called whiplash because this little element right there, or right here, is actually called a whiplash. It's where a whip comes out and it whips back into a crack. And I think the use of the lines in here, I mean, on the Tequier logo, who makes beautiful journals, it's a UK company. I think those are beautiful marks. I mean, I don't even keep a journal, but that makes me want to keep one, just kind of looking at the mark, you know. But look at how those lines in there are so graceful. And you'll also find that the color has really been drawn down, that it's not really distinctive. And you'll find that the kinds of materials and backgrounds that these are being used on also ends up being softer and more desaturated. Dots. Lots and lots of dots. Now, these aren't just dots. These are hand dots. So when you think about this, if somebody makes a logo and they want to put a halftone or a screen on top of it, and they cut out some, or they paste in, this pattern in there, it's very mechanical. But these are hand-drawn lines. So in order to convey that essence of something that you're representing being hand-drawn, artisanal, every one of those dots was placed on there by hand. Why? Well, basically because humans are imperfect. But that's a selling feature. We feel good about buying handmade chocolates, handmade candles, hand-woven rugs. I'm not so sure I'm big on handmade windshield wipers or computers, but you get to looking at, hey, this puts across the point. Super traps. Who was I talking to about traps earlier? You? Yeah, okay. So, So for those that don't know, fonts that were often made, especially for use in very small print, back when printing presses actually had ink on them, used to build what were called ink traps in them, because these areas would fill up with ink so that when you printed it, it ended up completing a character. But if you didn't have that, the ink would just mount up in here, and you'd have blobs that would appear when you printed into an area. Somebody blew up some fonts that had ink traps on them and said, "These things are cool as shit." Where do you suppose they came from? I never looked at this thing when it went close. This has got great character to it. So no longer does it serve a functional purpose, but it certainly has turned into a trend. So I ask you, where does that go? Where does it evolve to? I love head choice because they basically ended up making traps out of dog tails and cat tails, and it works. Pinched. Maha, you here? We talked earlier today about some logos. There was a letter form that I was looking at in there that had this curvature to it. Now, I've got a real issue with people that draw concentric lines that don't understand the perfection that can occur from a single radius. But I love what's going on here. This is, if you've ever taken a piece of like copper tubing and tried to bend it when you're plumbing, you can only bend it so much. If you bend it too much, it crimps and it goes bad on you. Well, what's basically going on here is these look like gone bad pinched tubes. But in fact, what I love is the fact that you're bringing an angle into a curve. Or in this case, you're bringing an angle into a flattened 545 curve that still rounds off. And this is everywhere right now. We're just seeing enormous amounts of it. That one on the very end, I'm not sure. There we go. Again, what we're seeing. Fair rays. Now, okay. There are lots and lots of logos that have multiple rays coming out of it. A few years ago, when everybody was putting a halo behind everything with the rays coming out of it. But what's going on here is notice that one, we're starting to move away from just circular elements. That this one continuous line coming out here, but that it is stepped to create that three-dimensional quality to it. And I think that what really ends up working is that oftentimes these are coming from a single point. But Tamara Chabukiani from Pragmatica really does some beautiful things where she has multiple points kind of coming together, create these three-dimensional shapes. I just love the dimensionality of those. Those things just enchant me. I get sucked into them. Okay. These logos I'm looking at today that I told them it was a little bit tight. I forget who it was they wanted to admit. When you start to think about how things scale up or down, you've got to think about how it's going to hold up when it's that big. How it's going to hold up on the board. And with this particular group of logos, obviously these thin lines, as I started doing this, I kept seeing all of these really highly condensed fonts that were going on. But then I started realizing it wasn't about the fonts, it was about the space that was in between on these. And I think that they work better if you're working into like a single monogram than if you're working into a word. Because once that reduces down, it becomes highly challenging to read. When Milton Glaser was doing the Bob Dylan poster, he invented baby teeth. That's what, you know, but the thing that he also did was not just those thin lines. Notice that each letter could describe itself without having those lines in there as well. So it's much more legible. Almonds. So I discovered when I started noticing these shapes, and by the way, the question that I am most asked by people is, what are the shapes of the year? Because every year, some shape just dominates the logos that are being designed. And I don't know why, oftentimes. And this year I told them it was almonds and macaroni. So the almond shape, which oddly I found really the actual accurate name for it is viscus, which is, we've talked about this, it's the fish bladder, where it overlaps and it creates that kind of area in between that's that shape. Or Mandorla, which, and I'm positive I'm mispronouncing that, but is Italian. Somebody help me. How do you pronounce almond in Italian? Sing it. Much better. I like the sound of that a lot better than almond. Will you just come with me? And you can, every time I present this, you can just say that because it sits so well. But the thing that I love about it is it becomes this really universal building block. When you start thinking about it, it obviously plays out in an organic field. It can be used either solid or in a linear fashion. It can be a component. It can end up being part of cattle as it starts to come together. But I really love the way that this all comes together. Trellis, we're just about there. Okay, that one was not really a logo, but I just thought I'd put it in there because it entertains me. The idea is that if you put leaves on anything, I think you're pretty much covered for this idea. But it's that, again, back to that idea of we can take the surface and treat it differently than the shape. So, I can look at the fleur-de-lis and I can go, okay, it's regal, it's French, it might be an iris. It conveys this level of loyalty. But in fact, because it's crafted out of this organic matter, it suddenly tells me that this is really about the ecology, or it's really about taking care of the earth. It can be as simple as the leaves on the yellow monkey, or it can be as wild as all the leaves on the lion's face. Okay, now I realize that I'm in Italy, and that macaroni has a different translation here. In my country, it's really, really tacky. My mother would serve macaroni, which was a little pouch of those things you saw dropping down, and big cheese that she would put into a pot together and straight. Oh, yeah. I know you're laughing at me, but that was how I grew up. So when I think about macaroni, this year I've seen so many logos that are crafted out of these quarter arcs in there. And it can either be the dominant player, and the only thing, it can be a half arc or a quarter arc. My mother bought the cheap macaroni, it was only a quarter. She couldn't afford the full, half arc. Or maybe a very minor player, like over the dog with the moon behind it. When I think about this, I think about COVID and the fact that COVID probably got us here. This was when we all went home to work, and our kids were there, and they were doing a craft project, and they were gluing little pieces of pasta down to make an art project, and somebody was looking at it going, hey, fuck, that's a logo. Damn! I didn't write that down. We got to discover these things some way, don't we? I told Rob I would bring 3 extras, so I'm going beyond the trade report, so you won't find these anywhere else. I think, I love the way that over a period of time, symbols transition. I don't know if you know this or not, but the heart actually originally came as the leaf of an ivy plant. And it was from the tree of life. And it was that idea of giving life. And then it kind of got turned over. And because it was giving life, we took the red from blood, and
We transitioned it to red. And now people are taking the logo and they're saying, no, it could be a little bit more corporate if we kind of square it off a little bit. We can still tell it's a heart. It's a company that's got a heart, but we're still going to bill you for it. It's still going to cost you money. Tracers? And we've seen these before, but they've kind of done a resurgence, which is this idea of a logo where you can put your finger on one point and kind of go through the entire logo and you're back at the beginning. So what's it actually doing? It's telling you that there is a process here. There is a pathway that we as a company can guide you through this operation so that it comes out successfully at the other end. And finally, benches. And I'm sure there's a better typographic term for this. It is the use of a horizontal line to extend within a letter form, which is commonly without that horizontal line in there. Really, you only need about one of those in a word mark to be successful. Just one will do. You don't need that many. Just one will do. Okay. Now what? I always find there are lots of logos being done that I just am going, guys, quit it. Just quit doing it. We don't need any more of those. So this year, surprisingly, there were immense numbers of hot dogs, chickens, and helmets, which somebody in my office pointed out to me are weenies, cocks, and Trojans. I guess we've got enough of those. We don't need more weenies, cocks, and Trojans. Things carrying flags, animals carrying, God, really? Does every animal need to carry a flag? Every one of those has its own country, I guess. I don't know. It's all, and it's not only animals carrying flags. Occasionally we get carried away and we take a cucumber and give it a flag. No need. And knives, God, knives. So many swords, so many people with, machetes and just tearing the crap out of stuff. We've all got to stick a knife in it. Jeez. You start using that many knives, what's going to happen pretty soon? You're going to want to start using those things. It's bad for society. You don't want to use all those knives, and then we start cutting shit in half. Don't cut stuff. Don't cut the calf. Do not cut the calf. And I think that's illegal. Cut the hand. No, you cannot. And I know you can't cut off the neck of a bird. I know for a fact that that's illegal, guys. One last thing. I mentioned trajectory, and I'm going to give you a quick example about why it's important to know where you came from. And I realize that this is America, that it's a slide that I've got. If I were to put a pen in the middle of that map and ask you where that person was going to be tomorrow if they were traveling, you would have no idea, would you? I could just as easily stick that thing in Florence
Local edge. I'm out of here. Well, no, one last thing. I do encourage you to take a look at local edge. Again, $100 membership. If you've got a company that you work for that has money set aside for educational purposes, spend it with me. I also encourage you to check out LinkedIn Learning because they have a tremendous resource for designers. I have some exceptional friends of mine and other people that are in the design field that can help in a lot of different areas, especially if you're a student. I happen to have about 12 courses on LinkedIn Learning and love teaching. Additionally, there's one course in there which is designed to help you understand how trends progress over a period of time in trend spotting. I know that was really complicated, didn't it? But just for you, what I did was I started thinking about the Kardashians. Are you familiar with the Kardashians? Yeah. I hear they came over here to get married. Yeah. Is that true? They did. Okay. Well, what happened was it turns out that Hulu, one of the TV channels, came to me because they heard that I did trend spotting and asked me if I could help them out with the program. So we actually were hired to do trend spotting with the Kardashians. No, it's okay. I'm completely lying here. This is complete bullshit. But the other thing that happened is I realized that it would be easy to tell exactly in the same way how the Kardashians are related to each other. So, I even do a little bit of forecasting in here.
Maybe some of your kids doesn't know that Bill is not just one of the greatest mind in design in this world, but he's also a magician. I know you're late when I asked you, can I bring some couple of props here? Can you arrange a magic trick for us?
Come on, guys, this is catching you entirely off guard. I had absolutely no idea. I didn't have any idea he would ask this question. But what did you bring?
I checked. Yeah,
Did you bring any canaries?
Not multi groceries. No, I don't know, an apple. I don't know if it's ketchup. I don't know, you're talking about nice, but that I left. And some napkins.
Napkins.
Before asking to these foreign guys, entertain us a little bit.
Who was it that helped me so beautifully say Mandora? Was that you? Would you come up and help me out for just a minute, if you don't mind? Would you give her a big round of applause? Hi, I'm Bill. Your name? Either or. Am I close? Okay, good. Come on up here so they can see you. You do such a good job of it. So this is for you. Good. Okay, we're done. No, I'm kidding. You work in the kitchen at all?
Yeah.
I do.
Okay.
And I enjoy it. Yeah. Do you know how to core an apple? Yeah. I'm going to put you to work because I'm going to actually take off a towel right here so that we don't make too much of a mess. And if you wouldn't mind just coring that apple. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead and do that. Okay. Just in your mind, do it. Don't actually puncture the apple. No, you're doing fine. You're doing fine. Yes, you made good. You have a beautiful smile. She was really good. No, it's all good. You what? The whole way through, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you've done this before. I can get you a job in America.
Is it good? Let me, you already have jobs. Are you a designer? Yeah. And where do you design?
I'm a freelance designer.
Very good. What kind of design do you do?
Logo, branding.
Do you really?
Yeah.
I heard about that. Is it pretty popular? You might want to hire me. Yeah, I'm dropping stuff because I'm messing, so I'm going to put that back up there. Let's finish kind of forward this thing out just a little bit further. I'm going to have you hold this and inspect it to make sure that we're good. That we didn't leave any seeds in here. This is a great tool. You know, I couldn't carry one of these on the plane, so I had to go shopping to buy one. Would you take a look at that? Okay. Are we pretty good? Is there anything in there? Okay. It's just a hole, right?
Yeah.
So there's nothing there. Yeah. Let's do this. What I want you to do is tear off a couple of those towels, if you will. Very good. Tear off one more, just so that we're making sure. And if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and set them all together. And place the apple right in the center. Got it? Turn it upside down. Yeah. No, unless you want to flip upside down. I'll turn upside down, okay. And gather them up together. Okay? Yeah. You're going to hang on to that. Matter of fact, kind of pinch it in there tight so that it's not going to, okay? Perfect. You've done this before. I know you have. This is great. So, we're going to do a little bit of a biblical story here in just a minute. This is Adam and Eve, okay? And you remember the story of Adam and Eve, where Adam was tempted by the snake to take a bite of the apple? Did you really, or are you just making this up? No, you really do remember that? Okay. So this, imagine being the snake, okay? And as you recall in the story, the snake tempted Eve. You want to play the role of Eve? Yeah, you do? Because I don't think it's legal for me to do that. We'll just do this, okay? Okay. Now, the great thing about this is that if I take the snake, well, you don't want to throw on forward. If we take the snake and just slowly compress it, not like this. Can you still see these? Can you still see them? Yeah? Huh? Still see the snake? Yeah? Okay. How we doing? Okay. Be careful with that thing. Because you don't have to eat. No, okay. I'm just saying. You still see the. Okay. Still see it? Yeah. I press it down in there. Well, it's as far down there as it goes. So at that point, no, you can't see it. Okay. This is the really fun part of this. Is no, we're not done yet. Because remember who you're playing?
What?
Do you remember what part you're playing? Eve. Yeah. Would you mind still hold the apple, but turn it upward the other way? Watch. No trouble. Thank you so much. Give her a big round. Okay, we're done. Vogliamo vedere se ci sono delle domande?
Ci sono subito qualche domanda in merito allo speech leaders from the audience on question for Bill right now, because otherwise we can proceed very shortly after. We can be compared with Bill, of course. But I invited also serious designer.
Yes.
Serious means most boring than Bill Gardner. Talking about some of the trends in order to get out from here and getting drunk in the bar in front of the school.
Questo è lo scopo della serata, quindi non sa.
But more conscious about all the design trends, because it's very important. So we have some question for Bill right now. Everyone shy.
Ok, ne faccio tutto io una domanda così, tu la traduci così la sappiamo tutti quanti. Si dice che tipicamente i designer siano le persone addette a risolvere problemi. In tutto quello che abbiamo visto, soprattutto nella novità di questi trend, spesso volentieri tende a crearsi se i designer non creano dei problemi in questo percorso. Siamo dei gatekeeper, quindi dei guardiani del faro, oppure siamo degli innovatori? Cos'è il più importante?
Why don't you take that one?
I will answer this.
Yeah, you answer that.
I think
That was such a simple question.
yes.
Okay, I will answer you. Okay,
I love you, Marco.
It's challenging.
let's do this. Marco asked if design means solving problems, but maybe sometimes we create the problems instead of solving it. So we are the
Creators.
problem creators or problem solvers. What's the difference? That'll be yours, and then I will try you because I have something to show you about this issue.
Well, I'm the problem solver. Bob is the problem creator. So, and Rob, just to start out with.
That's what
You know, I think that we are continually, and you've heard me use this word already today, evolving. And the only way that you evolve is by continually interject new information, isn't it? I mean, you see the resurgence of Art Nouveau, but it is reintroduced in a new way. And I think that what we do as designers is especially important, that we move things forward. And sometimes that creates problems.
Project approaches, right?
When we do that. And I think one of the challenges that has been most prevalent for me is that when a designer, let me just state it first. When somebody tells me that they design in complete isolation, that they don't look at other people's work, I believe that is complete bullshit. I don't buy it. We have to be able to base the work we do off of some point of relevance in the consumer's life. Some point, whether it's semiotics or in whatever fashion, they have to be able to relate. We've only got maybe 3 seconds for somebody to look at something that we create before they get tired and they move on. And if we create something that is in such violation of those understandings that we have, we're never going to communicate that message. And we are communicators, first of all. We know how to draw. That's pretty special. But we draw because we're communicating with people. And unless you're able to get that idea into their head quickly, you have failed.
Nice answer.
I don't know.
We need all the answer to the end, but again, thank you, Bill, because you always bring a very nice vision, not just for student or student, but also for senior designer. Because more you work in I always believe that more time you work as a designer, worse we become in creating something new. Because, and I am the first who have the fault. I'm going to this image just to follow my words. When we talk about graphic designer nowadays, brand designer, call it as you wish, we have a problem, more than one. But the main problem is being stuck in roots. We love to give roots.
Yeah.
Also because nobody recognizes our job, designer, as something serious, especially in Italy. Maybe in America they consider it a bit more, but we are always the guy who draw, or the girl who, oh, can you do me a logo because I have a bar? Come on, it's 5 minutes, and blah, blah, blah. So I don't know, we are in love with rules, guidelines. Don't do this to the logo. Don't do this to the typography. Please follow the rules in my guidelines manual. Probably it's because, I don't know, we have some kind of issue in our mind, but design is more about don'ts than do's. And if you live following this flow, you know, it's like when you say, by saying too much no, you become a no man. I don't want to say being a yes man, because you know, yes man is wrong. But graphic designer since the 60s lives by saying no. Brand identity is changing a lot through the technology, and your presentation always demonstrates this. There are monsters. Go to the edge of the map. So I bring an example that I hope everybody knows. IBM. All right. What an amazing designer.
And great French curves.
Yeah, they use great tools in general, but especially French curve. We don't remember the guideline manuals of IBM. It's boring. We remember, now if we can turn a little bit off the light, we remember just when they restricted the logo. Do you remember this? Who studied graphic design maybe saw this little reps, IBM. If you talk with the graphic designer, sometimes say, come on, don't do it. We have to respect the logo. Do you remember this? No, you can't place the logo upside down. This is a wonderful picture made by Armando Milani for IBM that show already a 3D logo during the 80s, before 3D Studio Max software 3D, but it was in the manual. So sometimes this means go to the edge of the map, because at the end of the day, they don't remember the packaging of the IBM machine. They remember the print. This is a wonderful Italian book. I don't know if it's suitable in English, that say, corporate identity, it's obsolete. We don't need manuals anymore, especially today, 2022, where we have technology advancing every single second of day. Where color, please use that Pantone, use that. Come on, guys, who have a smartphone that costs more than 1,000 euro inside this room? Raise your hand. That's a demand. You have a cheap phone. You spend, how much you spend in your smartphone? Let's do a test. 100 to 200 euro, raise your hand. 200. 300 to 400 euro. More than 500 euro. All rich inside this room. Okay, there was a dear friend of mine who saying, so it happened that there was this guy looking for the keys of Clint, you know, the painter Clint, with a wonderful gold vest and blah, 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 on face. And that gold was the same gold of the Homer Simpson skin. So today we are living in a world where also color, you can give rules. Because you have a cheap phone, you have a good phone, you see the different colors of the brand. So we have to redefine the tools. I love this page of the Volkswagen manual before the new logo that we have nowadays. Because that is what we have to do. Not saying don't outshadow to your logo, don't stretch the logo. People know, just be respectful. Because logo is an important part of identity, but you must respect it. You don't be scared of the logo. So it's something nice, and this is for saying that the future generation of graphic designer, thanks to tools like Logo Lounge and the Trend Record, but not only, have to understand that we are not rules maker. We are observer. We watch what's new. We are more paid to say no than say yes, we know. Because when a client comes to you, can you do this for me in Photoshop? I already have the idea. You must say no. Because at the end of the day, the client comes to you with the same question. Hey, can you help me to sell more tomatoes? So you will do everything for that freaking tomatoes. Logos and website and poster and videos and animation for tomatoes. Or you could be a designer and say, sorry client, if you have a surplus of tomato, why we don't start to make ketchup? And using your historical tomatoes to help the catcher in order to bring more person inside your product, your company, to open a new line of communication. And let me end by saying the design is not visible, as all the graphic design know, it's invisible. And sometimes making graphic design is easy. Doing graphic design is always more easy. What's your reaction if I say Canva? PowerPoint. They are tools. It doesn't make you a better designer, it's going to make you a faster designer. I love Canva. It's better than Photoshop nowadays. You can make cookies in Photoshop, but in Canva you can do whatever you want. I'm managing clients with Canva. Bye-bye. So graphic design is easy to do. More it becomes easy to do, more it becomes difficult to be a designer, to have the vision, the trajectory. So speaking about invisible, it was just a connection.
Però Bob, scusami, prima che
Sì.
passi a un altro.
Vai,
Visto che questa stanza è piena di due studenti,
non conosco nessuno.
stai invitando gli studenti all'anarchia.
Yes, anarchy. Design is anarchy, not rules. But you must know how to achieve anarchy. You know there is a good anarchy and a bad anarchy. I always say I love anarchy, but let's suppose you have a 1,000 euro phone. I know it's not true. Okay, you have the right to buy that phone, I have the right to steal that phone. This is anarchy, but it's not the right one. Anarchy starts from being smart, being an intelligent society. So I invite all of you to the anarchy. I respect a lot our guest of robadagrafici, but Marco, controdomanda, counter question. How many graphic designers are stuck in the room they studied at the university? How many for you? All of them. Because Massimo Vignelli is saying that you can't. Who? Massimo Vignelli. Who? I know it's Massimo Vignelli, but it's not my problem. You're already better than Massimo Vignelli. A guy who wrote a book called The Vignelli Canon. How many of you read that book, The Vignelli Canon? That. You must, I always say, if you want to read a book, you must read all the book of design. But you must read the book after 30 years of profession. So you will read it as a job book. If you read that book when you are a freshman in graphic design or a junior designer, you will end up to believe what Massimo Vignelli wrote in the book. And you really believe that designer can't. And the reality demonstrates that can be, demonstrate to us, the designer not can. Have vision, trajectory, understanding of society, not grades. Some of the most beautiful graphic design projects were made without grids. Some of your Behance account, you made a beautiful logo without grids, and I know all of you. And then at the end, I have to present it. Let me do a grid after you release the logo, right? How many of you have done something like that? This guy made a project in my branding class with some classmates about the restyling of Radio Maria. And he won an Art Director Club Italia award with this project. So a big clap to him.
Io sono molto preoccupato di tutto quello che hai detto in diretta, quindi ti assumo le tue responsabilità.
Everything I say, it's simply true. So, it's like being a good politician. If you want to be a politician, it's not to be re-elected. I want to be re-elected.
Adesso sarebbe il buon momento per dire che ti stai portando alle prossime elezioni.
So, let's jump back. Don't do grids of logo just because you have to show them the answer. Because, okay, when the designer sees grids and stuff, we get excited. It's like looking at porn for us, porn on videos, grids, logo. People doesn't care. If you have done before, okay, good. But you don't need to show out there. So it's invisible. Design is about simplicity and making something passing from an existing situation to an improved situation. Nothing more, nothing less. So speaking about invisible, I jump off from this page because I'm in trouble already. And we jump on to to Italian languages, right? Sì.
Passiamo un attimo all'italiano perché il nostro inglese è terribile, ma non perché
No, just to maintain the balance. It's almost about balance. This time you know what I mean. So,
Dai, siamo la community italiana, quindi qualcosa dovremmo fare.
grazie. Quindi invito
Simone.
Invito sul palco Simone, prego, che ha portato una bellissima slide. Questa. Ciao ragazzi. Un applauso a Simone che
Allora,
Lui è la cosa più bella.
è difficile parlarvi dopo Bill, parlarvi dopo Bob, è davvero terribile, soprattutto se siete una persona come me che come slide fa questo, lo so, non si vede mai, è tutta nera. È tutta nera per due motivi, il primo è che sono piccolo e non mi va a fare molto, e il secondo lo scopriremo nel tempo. Quando mi hanno chiesto di parlare di trend, io mi occupo prevalentemente di user interface e user experience, quindi il trend lo vedo molto legato comunque al web e credo che esistano trend. Non c'è niente da guardare, sarà sempre nera, quindi tranquillo. Mi posso mettere davanti al proiettore. C'è un trend che sicuramente sta segnando le nuove generazioni di designer, che è l'inclusione. Prendiamo con le pinze questa parola perché lo so che tante volte leggiamo inclusione e pensiamo stronzata. Lo stanno facendo perché è washing, greenwashing, rainbow washing e tutti i tipi di washing possibili e immaginabili. Però esiste anche inclusione, quella vera, quella che coinvolge gli utenti. E nel web esistono tantissime tipologie di inclusione. Non so se banalmente vi siete mai chiesti perché quando cerco qualcosa su Google Immagini o su Google o su qualunque sito al mondo i link sono blu e sottolineati. Ve lo siete mai chiesto? Ci avete mai pensato perché i link sono blu e sottolineati? Perché non rossi, verdi, gialli, con un cerchio intorno o con qualsiasi altra cosa? Beh, per inclusione. Il blu è per colorblind, quindi per i daltonici. C'è un grande falso mito quando si parla di disabilità, di patologie o di inclusione più in generale, siamo bombardati di falsi miti. Pensiamo, quanti di noi, io credevo all'inizio anche, che il daltonico vede in bianco e nero. Io ci credevo. Il daltonico non vede assolutamente in bianco e nero, ma ha uno spettro diverso. Vede delle tonalità in maniera ristretta. Per farvelo capire meglio è la differenza tra RGB e quadricromia. Sono due count leggermente ristretti l'uno con l'altro. E il blu è uno dei pochi colori, a parte che il daltonismo, sottolineo, non è una sola malattia, ma è uno spettro, quindi c'è deuteranopia, protanopia, tutta una serie di tipologie di daltonismo. Il blu, in quasi tutte queste patologie, è quello che resta costante. Il rosso viene visto come giallo, il verde viene visto come giallo, il giallo viene visto come grigio chiaro, quindi tanti colori vengono confusi con il giallo, ma il blu è uno di quei colori che tiene botta, sostanzialmente. E allora se per i daltonici ho fatto il link blu così, si può capire che è un elemento interattivo diverso dal resto del testo. E perché è anche sottolineato? È perché, cazzo, non è che sono tutti daltonici, ci sono anche altre tipologie di patologie. Considerate che il 24% degli utenti al mondo, in Italia siamo un po' più alti, il 31%, soffre di una qualunque tipologia di patologia visiva, glaucoma, daltonismo, può essere discromia, quindi vedere un colore per un altro può non vederli proprio. Ci sono tutta una serie di patologie, quindi i link sono sottolineati affinché l'utente possa comprendere che quell'oggetto è cliccabile e ci si può interagire. Dall'altonia però partiamo facili con l'inclusione, vabbè, faccio le cose più sottolineate. Tra parentesina, il vostro Photoshop ha l'impostazione per simulare deuteranopia e protanopia, vista, impostazioni, simula vista, e potete guardare il vostro design o il vostro... Per me è stato... potete guardare il vostro logo come viene visto da un daltonico. Facciamo un giallo, perché non solo le immagini devono essere inclusive, ma magari anche i testi. Quando noi parliamo di testi parliamo di leggibilità, ma leggibilità in italiano è un termine abbastanza ampio. In inglese conosciamo legibility e readability. La legibility è legata strettamente al carattere tipografico, alla dimensione del font che stiamo usando, quindi se siete in stampa ci hanno insegnato delle regole che 8 punti è quello leggibile sul serio.
Se parlate di web, magari 16 pixel è la dimensione minima per un font per essere leggibile, eccetera. Ma poi c'è anche la readability, che è la scorrevolezza del testo. Ecco, se la prima è una legge legata strettamente a quello che può essere del gusto estetico o comunque a delle norme, la seconda è misurabile, perché è legata a delle performance di lettura. Per arrivare dove? Per arrivare magari alla dislessia. Chi è dislessico affronta tutta una serie di problemi e noi siamo stati anche in questo caso ad essere abituati a una serie di falsi miti, come per i dislessici è necessario avere le ascendenti più alte, evitare le lettere completamente speculari, quindi creare delle differenze tra la P e la Q o la B e la D, minuscole chiaramente. Ma ci siamo resi conto nel tempo, facendo degli studi, che anche questa è un falso mito. È un falso mito perché se intervisto gli utenti dislessici, avranno delle preferenze su dei font che rispettano queste regole, ma se vado poi a misurare le performance di lettura, che sono velocità di lettura come KPI e soprattutto comprensione del testo che sto leggendo, non c'è nessuna differenza. La differenza la fa la creatura. Aumentare un po' la creatura aiuta. L'interlinea, e sul web infatti, se nella stampa di solito 135%, su web siamo più ampi, e per finire la fa levitare il wall of text, il grande mattone di testo, evitate, vi prego, vi scongiuro questi enormi paragrafoni, brutalistiche, tutto quanti stiamo facendo, perché chiaramente diventa difficoltoso per chi intende. E poi voglio arrivare al motivo di questa slide che per me personalmente è la massima espressione delle difficoltà che un designer può andare a realizzare, ossia è fare graphic design per utenti ciechi. Questa slide è completamente nera perché questo è quello che alcuni dei nostri utenti vedono. Niente, un cazzo. E fino a quando sì, vabbè,
Cazzo,
se può dire, siamo fuori fascia protetta. Che cosa succede? Succede che fino al mondo della stampa ci capiamo, un po' di braille, faccio le lettere in sovraimpressione e quindi toccando, chiudendo gli occhi, toccando, qualcosina la interpreto. Ma un sito internet o una pagina social media, vi dici, come la faccio? Questa volta non l'ho detto, ma ci sta parlando. Però l'ho capito. Sì, è arrivato, come la faccio? Beh, mi voglio legare sulle frasi banali che diciamo sui designer. Noi designer sono problem solver. C'è Don Norman, che è il padre fondatore della user experience, che ci ha detto che questa è una grande cazzata. Magari non siamo proprio problem solver, siamo problem definer, definiamo il problema. E per definire il problema dobbiamo comprendere gli utenti. In termini di user experience, voi ormai credo lo sappiate meglio di me, si parla spesso di user personas, si parla di questionari, interviste, mi devo mettere nei panni del mio utente, mi devo calare. Sì, ma poi nei fatti che cosa vuol dire fare user experience, fare empatia con il mio utente? Per noi in questa case history stiamo lavorando con un'associazione che si chiama Realize, insegna a bambini piccoli, 4-5 anni, ciechi, a fare sport seri. Gli insegnano a fare il baseball, gli insegnano a giocare a tennis, quindi sport seri, non è che gli fanno tira la pallina, salta, cose abbastanza difficili, per quanto saltare, parentesina, sia difficile per un cieco, perché perdi l'unico contatto che hai con il mondo, quindi ogni salto nel vuoto. E allora, per poter progettare una migliore esperienza, per poter capire come si progetta un sito internet per ciechi, che cosa abbiamo fatto? Ci siamo messi in auto, 700 km, siamo andati a Tirrenia, al centro sportivo Coni, e abbiamo vissuto lì una settimana bendati, insieme a loro, insieme a questi bambini. Abbiamo fatto sport insieme a loro, abbiamo giocato a baseball bendati, abbiamo giocato ad uno, in braille, uno, sono numeri e colori, se non ci vedi, cazzo giochi. E invece giochi ad uno con il braille. Questo ci ha permesso di empatizzare maggiormente con l'utente, di capire quali sono i loro problemi, quali sono le difficoltà, come si usa un social media o un sito internet. Se non sapete, tutti i vostri dispositivi hanno il voiceover, e si attiva il voiceover e vi narra tutto quello che c'è sullo schermo. L'usabilità è leggermente diversa perché dovete fare poi doppio tap per andare avanti con un solo. Scoprite un mondo, noi abbiamo i nostri telefoni costantemente in voice over da quando abbiamo fatto questa esperienza, perché per progettare meglio dobbiamo prima capire. E ci siamo accorti che, ad esempio, usando i social media, Instagram è fantastico. Non so come faccia l'intelligenza artificiale, ti racconta il contenuto delle immagini che stai guardando. LinkedIn è una sega. Se sei cieco, LinkedIn non fa per te. E adesso stiamo pian piano cercando di progettare un'interfaccia per non vedenti. Ora chiudo molto velocemente una chiusa, passo a Manu, che sicuramente è più bravo di me. Quello che voglio trasmettervi è, come trend, oltre a quella che è meramente la grafica, l'utilizzo di un font, di un colore, di un trend dell'anno, progettate per le persone, non per farvi le seghe mentali come su Beyoncé, per avere like in più su Dribble o su qualche altra piattaforma. Progettate per l'utente che davvero fruirà di questo contenuto. Grazie. Sì, intanto mi dicono di mettermi qua, non perché io sia contro di voi che state da quel lato, c'è una telecamerina, quindi perdonatemi. Riferimenti social miei? Allora sì, io sui social sono Checchia Design, che è il mio cognome. Di solito quando lo dico al ristorante non capiscono mai una sega. L'ultima volta che ho prenotato mi hanno detto Checchia? Sì, con qualche Z. Nemmeno una, Checchia, C-H-E-C-C-H-I-A. E invece la mia agenzia si chiama Florec, qualcuno di voi c'ha lo sticker, quelli che si sono seguiti dietro non hanno avuto i gadget, ragazzi, qua sono le penne, le graduali, bravi, perché sono gratis, poi si paga l'uscita. Tutti quelli che vengono.
400 euro, questi sono i cellulari che non siano.
E questo, ci sono domande?
Domande ragazzi? Domande? Volete sapere qualcosa di specifico?
Come si gioca uno nell'altro? Devi imparare il braccio.
Sono i colori.
Sì, ci sono delle carte, dopo vi faccio vedere la foto, e in alto hanno in braille il colore e il numero. Il problema è trovare il mazzo al centro del tavolo, o dare carte. Sono passato questo problema e il resto è relativamente semplice. Sì.
Sì, interfacce di cui ti sei occupato, c'è una funzione più difficile da fare, la che secondo me è stata la più difficile da...
Legata alla tematica dell'inclusione?
Sì.
Secondo me la parte più difficile di progettare un'interfaccia inclusiva, in questo caso per ciechi, è davvero perdere ogni legame con il design. Quindi diventa pura informazione, basta fronzoli, niente cursore animato, niente colore di background, niente immagini, niente hamburger menu che fanno animazioni strane, informazione dura e pura, perché è quello di cui l'utente poi, il trend lo chiamano brutalismo, anche se comunque ci distacchiamo un po' da quello. Però sì, questo è perdere secondo me la voglia di farsi la sega mentale.
Tu lo sai che ti sto odiando io per queste cose, però la scienza di
Ci bannano.
Cioè, prima dopo, ora siamo...
Ci bannano.
Sì, ti ha messo come WordPress temi semplici, cioè...
Temi semplici, esistono temi inclusivi, esistono plugin di accessibilità. Banalmente, se lavorate per la pubblica amministrazione, per un comune, per me, eccetera, o per una banca, è obbligatorio avere determinati livelli di accessibilità. Quindi far sì che ci sia la versione a basso contrasto e senza immagini, o che si possa allargare i minuti del font. E questa è una cosa che ci manda in testa il design, perché se mi allarghi il font, ma cavolo, è venuto sbagliato. Ma tanto sul web questa cosa non esiste, perché dipendiamo dalla forma dello schermo. Quindi non state a guardare le vedove, gli orfani e tutte quelle stronzate sul design.
Quindi si ricorda anche a quello che diceva.
Sì, assolutamente, nessuna regola.
Ma è comunque anche per un'interfaccia semplice, cioè non
Più semplice possibile, ma soprattutto cercare di usare tutte quelle buone norme di inclusività. Nella tecnica vuol dire usare l'alt tab sulle immagini che oltre che per l'avvero permette di, secondo me sta passando il capo. Vuol dire anche far sì che il lettore possa riconoscere il contenuto di un'immagine, eccetera, eccetera, eccetera. Grazie. Grazie a tutti.
Però parlavamo di un build, hai switch
dici e sei di Italia nel Translate, gli ho restato un altro giorno di magia dopo.
Manuel Alvaro. Oltre ad essere uno di roba da grafica che lo siamo adottati tanti anni fa, è anche in rappresentanza di Z Fonts, ambassador di Z Fonts.
Sono un po' no, allora.
Ci regali qualcosa anche oggi?
Allora, a me, Bob, I'm sorry guys, I'm not speaking Italian, so. Bob, quando discutevamo con Bill di cosa parlare, Simone è perfetto per il trend della user interface, Bill è perfetto chiaramente per il trend del logo design. Logo design e font design sono diciamo due argomenti piuttosto correlati con una serie di cose. Non potevamo parlare di trend nella tipografia, ma da questo punto di vista, se io adesso vi chiedessi, perché sicuramente lo avete, qual è il vostro font preferito, probabilmente uscirebbero fuori 10.000, dal Comic Sans fino all'Helvetica, passando per quanto tutti sfottono il Comic Sans, ma è anche meglio. Do you like Comic Sans? Yeah. Quindi l'unica l'unica slide che potevo portarvi per non annoiarvi altri 15 minuti sull'ennesimo trend, eccetera, è darvi la possibilità di scaricare il tech trend della 22, che è un arzinolo fantastico, bellissimo, che viene presentato da Z Fonts ogni anno, in cui troverete anche una fantastica intervista, your interview with Z Fonts for the tech trend Yeah, so, quindi fondamentalmente troverete questa fantastica intervista. Alla domanda qual è il carattere tipografico del futuro, probabilmente la risposta a questa domanda sarebbe a cosa ci porterà il futuro. Probabilmente nessuno di noi lo sa. Fino al 2019 non avremmo mai pensato di cadere in una pandemia, di restare in casa tutti quanti per mesi a fare cose, a fare pane, pizza e altre fantastiche cose. Difatti in quel periodo, se tutti noi pensiamo al trend, che poi ai trend che si sono evoluti soltanto trend legati al ritorno all'agricoltura, al comfort, allo stare bene. Quindi, se io vi chiedessi qual è il vostro carattere preferito, ditemi font che vi piacciono. Arsenica? C'è chi se l'ha ecco, l'arsenica è un altro carattere che è stato progettato e che è stato utilizzato per l'Eurovision 2022. Perché è stato utilizzato l'arsenica? Perché è stato utilizzato il carattere X per quel progetto? In realtà non è una questione di trend, ma è il valore dello studio, e Bob l'ha detto, ha ribadito questo concetto, come anche Simone. C'è uno studio dietro il progetto. Quando nelle nostre fantastiche community che vengono gestite da Marco, da me, da Simone, ogni tanto arriva il designer X che dice: ragazzi, ho fatto questo fantastico progetto di rebranding di H&M, ok? H&M, H&M, come lo chiamo. Progettato con Gotham. Chi conosce la storia del Gotham? A parte te. Okay. Gotham è un carattere tipografico che è stato progettato per la campagna del Milano. Quindi, che cosa racconta Gotham? Gotham racconta l'America, è stato progettato sulla struttura dei caratteri tipografici delle industrie e delle fabbriche americane. Dico la parolaccia, cosa cazzo c'entra il Gotham con il brand di H&M? Ok? Quindi fa pure i trend. Prima di tutto studiamo, prima di tutto cerchiamo di capire qual è la storia dietro al carattere tipografico, perché probabilmente i caratteri tipografici sono una di quelle cose che noi prendiamo dalla lista, quindi scorriamo il Sans, Impact, fantastico, Impact, un carattere che riesce a contenere molte informazioni in pochissimo spazio, è perfetto per qualsiasi cosa, ok?
però poi non ci viene in mente il fatto che potremmo cercare anche altro, che ha una storia, che ha un valore. Un altro carattere tipografico che è abusato in Italia. Chi di voi conosce Aldo Novarese? Ok. Aldo Novarese è stato uno dei più prolifici disegnatori di caratteri tipografici in Italia, voglio dire al mondo, ma ha regalato dei caratteri fantastici al mondo, fra cui lo stop. Eppure lo stop, che purtroppo non ho supporto video delle slide, però lo stop è quel classico carattere che noi vediamo per idraulici, metalmeccanici. Okay? Ho visto anche parrucchieri utilizzare lo stop. Per quale motivo? Perché quell'assenza del segno grafico legato al carattere, eccetera, rimanda al futuro, rimanda alla fantascienza. Okay? Quindi, perché dobbiamo parlare di trend? Perché non parliamo di persone? Perché non parliamo del valore che il carattere tipografico ha rispetto a una storia, rispetto a una persona? Aldo Novarese, noi tutti quanti a scuola, chi di noi ha fatto tipografia utilizza la classificazione di Aldo Novarese. Aldo Novarese non ha fatto una classificazione serif, sans serif, handwriting e che cosa ne so. Ha fatto un percorso storico da quando il carattere tipografico è iniziato a essere scritto fino all'evoluzione del carattere tipografico sans serif, che probabilmente è il carattere tipografico che è arrivato ad essere quello più moderno che noi percepiamo. È il motivo per il quale noi oggi tutte le aziende dell'industria utilizzano molto il sans serif per evolversi poi nel blending, di cui abbiamo parlato e riparlato. Di questo c'è un'intervista fantastica, ripeto, con Bill sul trend. Quindi, per poter studiare, per poter capire che cosa succederà in futuro, l'unica cosa che possiamo fare è guardarci noi, guardare dentro di noi, guardare la nostra storia, guardare l'evolvere della storia. Fra i vari trend che abbiamo individuato ce n'è uno a cui io credo tantissimo e probabilmente sarà quello il trend che a mio avviso Villa ha individuato il tight, il trend del tight, tantissime informazioni in pochissimo spazio, che probabilmente potrebbe essere legato al goal purpose, che è quello che abbiamo individuato fra i trend. Urlare, cercare di imporsi, cercare di far valere la propria posizione, il proprio sentimento, la propria, soprattutto in questo periodo dove probabilmente da adesso in poi, soprattutto in Italia, non so che cosa succederà dal punto di vista elettorale, ma non lo so. Forse è il caso di iniziare a gridare anche noi qualcosa. Io credo molto nel goal purpose. Però tutti questi trend li potete trovare all'interno di questo type trend e credo che anche voi, anche noi, ci metto anch'io, per poter individuare quello che è il trend del futuro non dobbiamo fare altro che alla mattina aprire il giornale, vedere che cosa succede, iniziare a pensare, iniziare a percepire quello che proviamo, quelle che sono le nostre emozioni, e un esercizio utilissimo per quello che è la progettazione nel futuro. La UX negli ultimi 10 anni, negli ultimi 15 anni è diventato un trend. No? Per quale motivo? Perché forse una volta Massimo Mignelli progettava per non l'estetica, per raggiungere un obiettivo X, oggi dobbiamo raggiungere le persone. Anche nella visual identity abbiamo iniziato a introdurre la UX, la user personas per la visual identity, quindi collegare quello che è un'estetica, un messaggio al pubblico finale. Quindi c'è uno studio che noi dobbiamo fare per riuscire a raggiungere l'obiettivo. Ma se noi seguissimo il trend dal punto di vista dove arriveremo, probabilmente torneremmo facciamo un passo indietro e torniamo all'estetica. Okay, quindi quanto i trend possono funzionare da quel punto di vista? Scopriamolo insieme. Che cosa dire? Avete delle domande, avete delle osservazioni da questo punto di vista dell'ambito trend?
Io ce l'ho.
Vai.
Il futuro è sans serif o serif?
Il futuro è il font, per voi è il font o la font?
Devo dire questa cosa simpatica, che i primi meme fatti su robadagrafici parlavano del font, no, scrivevano il font. Il primo commento che c'è stato, e poi anche Simone l'ha visto, è che si scrive la font e ha qualcosa come 200 like sotto questa cosa qui. E questo è stato il primo meme fatto da robadagrafici.
Se noi
Da lì
chiedessimo,
dovevo capire che dovevamo cambiare l'altro.
se noi chiedessimo a Bob l'arancino o l'arancino? Ok, è lo stesso sistema.
No, ma c'è in verità c'è una risposta. Il corretto è maschile non per fatti di genere, ovviamente per diretta traduzione al francese. La font è stato fatto da quei grafici fighetti che è francese, quindi la font, you know, like Americans do when they use French word, they use la at the beginning. Sure. La baguette, la
It's fewer letters than V.
Yeah. So, but it's masculine. Il font per diretta traduzione in qualcosa che è stato uso. Quindi non è la qualcosa che è stato uso. Quindi teoricamente e semanticamente poi questa era di siamo così fluidi che sgoccioliamo, chiamato al maschile al femminile, usate il nero, del font.
Il problema è che noi designer amiamo farci il picco a vicenda da questo punto di vista, quindi probabilmente prendere il futuro solo le picche.
Just 2 nights ago, Bob was trying to explain gender to me at the dinner table with a fork and a knife. This is
If I
female,
was
this is
saying
male.
fucking not sex,
I'm going
That's important.
So if that's female, this is.
Bob, comunque nei commenti un palermitano sta chiedendo il tuo indirizzo.
perché non può trovarmi quanto vuole, non mi fare scadere neutrali.
Comunque, vi ringraziamo intanto per essere venuti tutti e da questo punto di vista noi facciamo molte indagini, soprattutto sui social, sarebbe bello sentire anche la vostra voce, fate sentire la vostra voce, esprimete anche voi se siete più seri, sinceri, sull'ambito, ma alla fine dei conti. Non ho voluto rubare tempo a Bill.
E nemmeno io vi saluto proprio chiudendo semplicemente prima di tutto ringraziando i nostri partner che ci hanno aiutato prima di tutto a fare un bel omaggio gratuito. Volevo ringraziare anche Job Formazione che ci ha aiutato nel divulgare questo evento, all'OIED, ai ragazzi che vengono tipo sopportati con i beni di Windows, non perché siano pelati, anche. Vedo bene. Detto ciò, ragazzi, io spero che rimanete con voi anche per l'after party, che in realtà è semplicemente ci andiamo via cari. Cosa che vi permetterà anche di venirci praticamente e stalkerarci direttamente dal vivo. C'è Simone che non vede loro che si sta creando. No, diciamo in realtà lui è l'unico che lavora, che è venuto qua per lavorare, sta andando a lavorare. Però ringraziamo intanto tutti voi che siete venuti, grazie. Penso che è il momento di...
Can we do the last magic trick? Can you do for me? The last one, I think. No, this one. We're already done this.
I'm built for James, are you good with playing cards? A game of cards, speed. Okay, good. Did you bring it in? Well, we can't do any matches now. Fortunately for you, I brought a deck. Okay. But with this particular deck, we'll just leave the box to the side because I'm kind of guessing. What we might do is, if you don't mind, take cards, completely shuffle them, and make sure they're mixed up. Because sure. Okay, that's good. Please, no, by all means. No, seriously, just give them a good.
Oh.
Yeah, you really did it, didn't you? Let me make sure, okay, gotta put them back in order now. I have these things completely orderly. Okay, I'm just counting to make sure we've got all the cards left in here. Yeah, we're in pretty good shape. I think we've got everything we need. Okay, so, James, do you have a particular card that is special to you in any way?
I can choose my favorite.
Well, you could.
7.
The 7? Is it the 7 of spades? Isn't that kind of an unlucky card? Is it? No, okay. Let's do this. I'm going to have you pick one more randomly than that. We'll just throw that one out. I'm going to go through the cards, and what I'd like you to do is, as I go through these, just point to a specific card. Okay? All you've got to, yeah, we're going to want to do this today because we've kind of run out of time. So which one are you pointing at? That one? Right there? Here, we'll put the spread deck up. Take your card off the bottom.
One.
Well, whatever that card is. Yeah, okay. Take a look at that card. Whatever you do not show that card to me.
Non fagli vedere la carta e guarda quella carta.
But you can show the card to the audience.
Puoi farci fare vedere la carta. Ok.
You got it?
Yes.
I'm going to go in the other room for a minute. Play with the card. If you don't mind, go ahead and put the card back on top, and we're going to go ahead and take the deck and continue to shuffle this thing up. And James, is that your card? Okay. How about this one? Okay. We're going to work our way down to your card eventually. Okay, Benjamin, what would happen if I told you that I'm going to take this deck and cause your card to rise out of the deck? Your card, you selected it, and I had no control of the card that you selected. It's in here somewhere. We're going to cause your card to rise out of the deck, but it's on the count of 3. But because we're Italian, we're not going to do 3. We're going to count. Help me.
1, 2, 3.
Right. Okay, here we go. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Now you've got to believe this is going to work. Yeah. Okay, you have to believe. Okay. On the count of 3.
1, 2.
They're going to count for you. And when we get to 3, I want you to name your card. Do you know the name of that card? Okay, here we go. On the count of 3. 1, 2. Your card's going to fly out of here on 3. Okay, 1. Are you getting nervous? Why are you nervous? Okay, good. Here we go. This one. 1, 2, 3. Just like that. Can you see your card fly out? You did. What was the card that you picked? The what?
Offer.
You are amazing! You are incredible! That was great! I'm never going to have a full deck again!
Wow. Okay.
Thank you very much. Let's get a big round again. Thank you.
We get a picture of us.
Grazie a tutti i fantastici.
Ma se sei un giornalista, una tastiera che no, se devi fare una sigaretta, una personale, posso usare.
Somebody find us.
Oh, those are wonderful. Thank you. Oh, you're so creative. It's okay. It's all good for your.
Magari il tema non si dicono parolacce, non si dicono parolacce, non lo devo io.
Tra cui delle pellicole da poter utilizzare in classe e delle skin per le nostre Apple Pencil, e devo dire che mi ci sono trovata molto bene, in particolare con le pellicole, perché venendo da disegno su carta, non avendo mai utilizzato effettivamente niente di digitale per disegnare, ho avuto proprio la sensazione di disegnare su un foglio di carta, quindi il cambio non è stato così drastico.
È perfettamente aderente, quindi non si nota la differenza. Ha un richiamo forte anche alla tradizione, diciamo, della matita a mano, perché anche dal suono, mentre disegni, ti ricorda un po', ti richiama un po' quella sensazione là, è molto piacevole. La skin della penna sono parti molto carine, un po' colorate, quindi spezza un po' tutto questo nero, questo bianco. Anche qui c'è un buon grip, non ti suda la mano, comunque ti consente di lavorare anche molte ore senza affaticare troppo, sudare troppo, e comunque ha una buona aderenza, il che è ottimo perché non ti scivola e non hai problemi di sorta.
Ce ne hanno date di vario colore, quindi colorate, intercambiabili, insomma, tutti i gusti.